episode of Roll or Die. Today I am here in Darwin with the one and only Dave Nicholl, head coach of Darwin Jiu-Jitsu Academy and probably one of my longest time friends in Jiu-Jitsu, known me since I was a white belt, and I'm a little bit nervous about some of the dirt he's going to dish on me and the rest of the Jiu-Jitsu community at large. Thanks, Dave.
Welcome, Dave.
No, thank you. No, I'm not going to say any bad things about Kim. I've known her for a very long time. Travelled around Australia with her. We have.
Really?
So I'm actually staying here at Dave and Karen's house. We had Karen on previously, Dave's partner. I think she was about episode 55 or something. So we've grown a lot in this time as a podcast host and as a podcast platform. And so that's why we're
amazing
you now.
And this is the first time I think ever that we've actually had our guest in the same room as one of us. So this is a bit of a first.
That's right. Yeah. Normally I'm sitting in another room. So I thought, well, I'm here in Darwin, day drinking. So why not? Let's bring him on and have a chat because how long have you been doing jiu-jitsu? When did you start?
Around about 2000 or thereabouts.
Wow.
Okay, and tell us how you found jiu-jitsu and how it all happened.
Originally, I was doing a style very similar to Coast and Judo and some classical jiu-jitsu. And I was doing it down at Bunker Street in North Melbourne with a bloke called Barry Bradshaw. And then one day, Peter DeBean and the Gracies rocked up and jumped out of this BMW and came in and did a display. And that's how I sort of got hooked on it. And that's
that is amazing.
So 2000. So that was just after the UFC.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That is amazing. I'm just imagining Peter DeBean and a bunch of Gracies getting out of a BMW, like clowns get out of a clown car, out of a tiny little car, but they come in and they do some amazing.
Well, Peter actually had hair then too.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Now we're getting the real dirt. So what? Yeah. So what's your favorite Peter DeBean, with hair or without hair? Like, what's your preference?
Oh, mate, I think without hair, mate. Without hair, definitely. Yeah.
So you've seen a lot of changes then in the jiu-jitsu scene in Australia since you started, yeah?
Yeah, look, the thing is, when I first started, there was none of this, like, us and things like and clapping.
Hear that, Anton?
Yeah,
and take note.
Gustavo Guamarães, who came on the show.
No us, mate, not at all. None of that.
Okay,
balloon deflating and stuff like that. And then in those days, when you used to compete, your main goal was for submission. And then what I've seen over the years, it's changed from a submission to not necessarily the best credentialed fighter wins, but the one that's most knowledgeable about the rules wins. So you got a lot of used to get a lot of stalling, get your 2 points or get your advantage up, and people would stall.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like, I think for me, it's sort of like the era of the Mendes brothers when they were big on the world stage. That's when it all sort of kicked off with knowing the rules as a part to actually fighting for 10 minutes. If you look at some of the old guys like Hobson Mora and people like that, Sol Rabira, look at their fights. 10-minute war. Absolute war.
Yeah.
Jacare and Hodger Gracie, when Jacare's arm was broken, kept backing off the mat. Those were the days when black belts fought. Now it's more points. Yeah,
it's actually now that you mention it like that, when people call jiu-jitsu fighting, and then MMA people get upset, right? Because they're like, that's not fighting. This is fighting. MMA is fighting, right? But I actually do think there was a time where jiu-jitsu was fighting, and now it's maybe not as much fighting. Now it's much more like a sport, you know what I mean? Or, versus that kind of war. It's definitely fallen more into the sport category nowadays.
I remember, I think my first trip to Brazil was around about 2004, something like that. I went over there with Pete, Max, and Big Mick. And I can remember we went over there, and this is how long ago it was. Gordo was still in charge of the Gracie Barra fight team, and Gordo only had a dojo in Nova Leblon, and he was still part of Gracie Baja. This is before him and Carlos split, before he got his new gym in Leblon. And I can remember going there, and Peter Pano was the world champion at the time, Marcio Cruz. And we'd go to Nova Leblon and train, and you'd only do maybe 1-2 techniques at the most, and then you would just drill it, and then you would just roll and roll and roll, and you walked out of there literally, 3 or 4 kilos plus lighter just with the exertion. And it was quite funny because, anyway, Mick was rolling with Peter Pano, because if Big Mickey's a friend of mine, he's big, so is Peter Pano. Anyway, Mick put Peter Pano to sleep, and next minute the whole room just silence.
Wow.
Anyway, Gordo's walked over, said something in Portuguese to Peter Pano. He's sort of woken up, looked up, and next minute the whole room is just burst into laughter.
Mm-hmm.
Peter Pano's got up, shook Mick's hand, and just grabbed his stuff and just left. And that was that.
Wow.
And but they were the sort of days, and like in those days, like that Leblon, you had Celcinho. He's a Brazilian black belt who actually took over from Ryan Grayson when Ryan passed away. Mm-hmm. And Celcinho was a gymnast, and he's only a little bit shorter than me, but he's absolutely built like it. And watch him fight, and those guys like those, but you didn't see a lot of berimbolas and stuff like that. You saw a lot of basics. They were very good at the basics, but everything that they did was not to get a pass or 2 points. It was always to lead to some form of a submission.
Yeah.
And that was their idea. And that's the difference now, But no, it's been a very interesting journey for me so far now.
Are you more in love with jiu-jitsu or less in love with jiu-jitsu now as a result of these changes?
Oh, realistically, I'm a full-time jiu-jitsu instructor now. I suppose I'm...
Karen's just laughing. Karen's having to leave the room laughing because of that comment, just FYI. So, obviously, I don't know how true that is.
That's my nighttime job. My daytime job is I do all Karen's housework for her. I'm just as in love with it now as I ever was.
Yeah.
There's always new people coming through, new characters, as you probably realise. Not everybody sticks with it because it is very humbling.
Yeah.
And it tends to weed out the blokes that just, they watch the UFC come in and think, within 5 minutes they're going to be tapping the room. And it's just, I can remember I spent many years underneath Big Mick, I still can't tap him. Very hard to pass at all,
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
So Dave's Academy, Darwin Jiu-Jitsu Academy, I trained there on Tuesday night up here. It's fantastic. I mean, I think there was 4 or 5 black belts in the room. Mm-hmm. It's if you don't mind me saying, it's a relatively small club. Mm-hmm. I mean, you probably got more black belts on the mat per, as a percentage than any other gym I've ever been in.
Wow.
So why do you think that is? Like, to have 4 or 5 black belts on the mat at any academy is amazing.
Yeah.
But if you don't mind me saying, Darwin's pretty much like a big country town. Mm-hmm. What do you think? Why do you think that is? What's the secret?
I don't know. I suppose could be Karen's cooking for the barbecues, but I think realistically, all these guys, all my black belts, they're all like part of the family, all friends. I've known them all 10 years plus. Most of them have all got their belts from white belt right up to black through me. Mm-hmm. We're pretty close. Even when they're injured, we'll have a barbecue or something like that. They'll turn up. Even if they'll turn up to the club, sit on the side of the mat and talk with Karen and have a chat. We're just very lucky that the group of guys that we've got have got a very good, strong bond. And it reminds me of sort of like the very early days in jiu-jitsu, where if you did jiu-jitsu, you could couch surf around the world, and the only thing that would cost you would be a bit of food and your airfare.
Yeah.
And that's a sort of, I suppose, the mentality that my club's got.
Yeah.
Where they're all really close friends, and they've all been doing it for, like I said, a lot of years, these guys, and they've just hung around.
That's a really good point, man. Like I like, you hear people like Locke and Livia Giles, they talk about when they travel, like they've always got a place to stay, right? They're always staying with mates. But it'd be a really interesting social experiment to see if like an average Joe like me could go travel the world and stay with jiu-jitsu people and not pay for any accommodation. Like you literally fly, you put it out to the jiu-jitsu community, you lob with people, you train with people, you see if you can train at the clubs like free or very cheap, and just do a jiu-jitsu traveling social experiment. I reckon that'd be really interesting and fun to see if that's still alive and well.
Yeah, I've got, I think, I know Nick Taris, one of my guys, went over to England and he went and trained at Hodges' place. Because through Pete, I know Hodger and I've rolled with Hodger and I've rolled with Hodger's father.
Wow. And then Gracie.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. He's on a first name basis with them all. And we don't need
you have to say the Gracie part.
Names. Come on.
Oh, we'll see.
Hodgie. Hodgie. We call him Hodgie.
Yeah, so and Nick Taris, he went over to England and because of Hodger, he got to roll at Hodges for free. Then Big Woz went to Texas. He went to Draculino's, and Draculino didn't charge him because of me. The thing is, like through Peter, I was lucky enough to meet all these people. And what you got to remember, when Peter first started going over to Brazil, he lived with Carlitos Gracie Jr. So a lot of the guys that Peter's introduced me to, and I've been with Pete when he's met and all that. It's just phenomenal. They're like, when you meet them, everyone thinks they're superstars, and they really are. But they're just normal guys. You know what I mean? They're like, so like my black belts, the guys that I grew up on the mat with, they're just my mates. But a lot of people will think, oh, geez, they're fantastic, they're this and that, and so well, they probably are, but still my friends. And that was a difference back then. Yeah, everybody was a friend, and like, because Pete used to sleep at Carlos's in Carlos's lounge room there, a couple of doors down from Byfit or the old Gracie Baja there. But I'm just lucky, I guess, I suppose that with Pete, Pete's contacts and that, and the people I've met, we've had such a good, network of friends and places to go.
Yeah, and Kim's doing.
And how was it training in Brazil? Like, how does that compare to the training in Australia? What would you say?
Oh, geez. When I was first went over to Brazil with Pete and that, there wasn't very many gringos, for a better word, training over there. Like the Americans would come over and then they'd sort of go off on their little tours in the bars and clubs and that, and then you wouldn't see them again until the end. So a lot of the time, you were like, Mick and I were the only sort of white people in the actual gym area. So it was quite good because I did learn to count in Brazil, count up to 10 in Portuguese. Mick could already speak most of it. Yeah. It was like going over there, like I said, their attitude, the way they moved and all that, it's totally different. It's like over there, they all trained together in those days. Like I can remember they'd go training and then they'd go and have a big barbecue after training, or you'd see them down the beach in the morning playing volleyball or going for a surf, and then they'd all be at the training at night time. And if you were competing, at least half a dozen or more of them from the gym would just rock up just to support you, and that's having said, like, in Brazil, there's usually a competition on somewhere every weekend somewhere.
Wow. I remember we had Chris Arnott on the show, Australia's first Aboriginal. I'm not sure if that's the correct terminology, but black belt, as far as we know. Anyway, he came on the show. He trained in Brazil quite a lot. And he was saying that when he was there, I think he said he was staying in the favelas, and it was like violence and gunshots and all sorts of crazy things were happening. Did you experience, like, was your experience in Brazil easy to manage, or was there significant challenges?
We're very lucky because the first time I went over with Pete, we trained at Gavia Jiu-Jitsu, which is Leo Teixeira's, Zebeli's gym. He's probably the best kids coach in the world. Right. And so with Pete's command of the Portuguese and with the people that Pete knew.
Don't say yourself short. Counting to 10 is an amazing effort, brother. That's an amazing effort.
Oh, it is, mate, especially because they told me I have a very thick accent, apparently. A very thick accent. So no worries, mate. You know.
Oh.
Yeah. So no, it's yeah.
I cut you off. I'm so sorry, man. I couldn't resist.
Oh, that's all right.
telling that
I was
joke.
just
I've been
laughing.
waiting.
Yeah.
I've been waiting.
He's not often lost for words. Actually.
No.
That's probably the first.
Yeah, no, it was I can remember we're traveling at Leblon, and anyway, Marcus Ensel, if I don't know if you remember Marcus at all. Marcus and Wolfie got a gym in Collingwood. Anyway, Marcus is also, I mean, he's about 3rd or 4th degree in Aikido, and nice little guy he is. And anyway, we're over there in Brazil, and Marcus goes, "Come on, let's go." And Mick goes, "Oh, I'm going to stay for the barbecue and some food," which Mick does. So anyway, we've jumped in on the bus. I go, "You sure you know where you're going, Marcus?" Yeah, I know. Anyway, instead of going back into Rio, we started going out. Next thing, so Mark goes, "All right, let's get off the bus." So we got off the bus, and it actually was outside a favela.
Yeah.
Anyway, we got off and going, "Oh shit!" So anyway, I've grabbed my credit card, stuffed them down the front of my pants, just looking around, and all of a sudden it was like the cartoons. These eyes, they're just sort of opening up in these little dark areas.
Oh man.
Anyway, Marcus just looked around and said, "We're getting out of here." Anyway, this taxi's driven past, and Marcus has gone, "Stop." Anyway, the taxi driver's wound down his window and gone, "No way," and kept driving.
Oh my God.
I'm going, shit, what's going to happen now? Am I going back in a body bag or, everyone. So anyway, another taxi comes along, and anyway, Marcus, to his credit, full Superman dive onto the bonnet and stops the car.
Wow.
We jumped in the taxi.
In the favelas.
Yeah. Straight back to Rio, mate. Straight back to Rio.
Wow.
So, yeah, that was one of the things,
Yeah.
And,
It's like you just don't want to swim out into too deep waters in places you don't know. That's for sure.
Oh, mate, no. I can remember when we went over there, and it was one time it was Max, Peter, and Big Mick and myself. And we went to Olaria, and we fought at the Rio de Janeiro State Championships at Olaria. Anyway, Zebeliza took us there by car, and we're driving into this area, and it might, geez, it looks like bloody Poland after World War II. There was all these burnt out car bodies. On the tops of all the fences, there was like broken bottles cemented into the tops of the fence and barbed wire and stuff like that.
Whoa.
And anyway, we've gone in there and Mick's fought, and we've done all that. And next minute, Max and I are sitting up there in the stands, and these kids walked past. They're only about 14 or 15. They had bloody like Colt 45s hanging out their back pockets. Right? I said, okay. So we decided that, we stayed there, and then we left, and we didn't realise it. We should have gone a little bit earlier, and it was just on dark. And we've gone to the bus stop, and it was like a little gunnery turret type police station thing there. And the coppers were sitting in there with bloody machine guns through little slits there.
Wow.
And this is in Olaria, and it's like, we're just looking. So we jumped on the bus and got the hell out of there.
Wow.
It was just one of those things. It's a beautiful place. I love the place, but once again, if you're not aware of where you're going or the time limits and that, or what you should do, and it was amazing. We're coming back in, and you could see the tops of the favelas and all that. And what the kids would do, they had kites, right? And they'd fly these kites, and they'd fight each other with the kites and cut each other's kite strings. And the kites would sort of float down onto the freeway and places like that. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. Everything's a fight in Brazil, even the kites. Right.
Yeah.
In fact, that is the name for the podcast. Everything is a fight in Brazil, even the kites.
Dave, something else about your academy that's really nice. It's very, very welcoming. So it's, I guess maybe it's because, like I said, Darwin's kind of like a big country town. Or I don't know, maybe it's like you and Karen's hospitality, but it's just fantastic because, I just feel really welcome. Obviously, I'm going there as a black belt, but I think that even if you were to be like a brand new student as a white belt, you guys have sort of got a bit of a setup where you've got gis that you can lend out. Don't need to buy a gi. let us let us lend you a gi,
Yeah.
and then we'll wash it for you.
Oh,
Don't
wow.
need to commit to buying a gi, things like that. So
Yeah,
The
really
thing
good.
is, it's Theo's a white belt. We welcomed him. So,
Yeah, well,
sorry, mate.
that's right. There you go.
hey,
That
he's not
proves
a
him.
white belt. He's a 2-stripe white belt. Come on.
Oh, no,
yeah.
you stripes.
Yeah.
But no, it's just one of those things. I remember, like once again with Pete, wherever I went in Brazil with Pete or Mick, whichever academy went to, they were always friendly. They were always welcoming. And the thing is, if you want the sport to grow, or jiu-jitsu to grow in Australia, there's no good being an elite. There's no good, like making somebody
Forcing him to buy a gi.
spend money they haven't got, or they can't afford. And the thing is, I know certain gyms around Australia where you walk in and you've got to sign up after X amount of lessons, and you can only buy their particular gis and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And that's good and well. But if you're a dad and you've got 3.5 kids, a dog, a missus, and a mortgage, sometimes it's just not financially viable to like I've got a mate of mine that's got 3 girls, and just for there's over $600 or $700 just in gis alone.
Absolutely.
And that's yeah, so that's the way we look at it.
I think you're right.
If you make it
totally
affordable for
agree.
people,
Yeah. Go on. I cut you off.
that's what you want. Like the thing is, everyone's welcome at our club. No politics. Leave the politics at the door. Sometimes we get people to come in. They love the joint. Other times they come in, sorry, it's not for me. But try and give them the best possible experience you can, and they might go on. So we get a lot of medical personnel returning on contracts up here, like doctors and nurses and that. But they'll do a 3-month contract at Royal Darwin Hospital, go back to Melbourne and come up. So I've got a lot of those. We've got one of the guys, Shred Simpson. He's a football player over in WA. So he'll play footy over in WA in the winter, and he'll come up and play for up here. And so every 6 months or so, he comes back and rolls with us. So it's just one of those things. If you make people welcoming in that, but also you've got to remember Darwin's a very small community, but a lot of the people here are FIFOs, which is fly in, fly out. Yeah. So they might be in a 2 and a 2 or a 4 and a 1. So they might spend 4 weeks out on wherever, come back in for a week. And a lot of people want to do jiu-jitsu, but they're scared or worried that, because they're away for so long. So I just tell them, come along, give it a try. If you're here, you're not. I'm not going to hold it against you. Just come along and do it. And I've got blokes, one of our mates, one of my brown belts, he's a FIFO. He spends, 2 weeks out, a week and a bit in. Another one was 2 out, 2 in. And now that was Louis, and he's now one of my black belts. The thing is, everyone thinks that you make money out of jiu-jitsu. You don't. And people have got to, pay the bills, and that's the way to do it. If you extend the hand of, friendship, you'll just get people come through the door. And we get people, we've had people from Perth come over. We've got people travelling around Australia that come around and ring me up or email me. Everybody's welcome. That's the way that I do it. There's no politics.
Yeah, good on you, man. That's brilliant. I totally agree. And I think giving people the opportunity to try jiu-jitsu until they get to the point where they get bitten by the bug and then they're in, or they're not bitten by the bug and then they're out, has the most integrity, I think. You know what I mean? Like letting people try it, and without the expenses of gis and without expensive memberships. I really think, in my view, and this is something I'm experimenting with myself, but I'm actually coaching at the moment. I've just started, right? And I'm not charging at all, and I don't intend to for 3 months, right? And what I want to do is donate as much coaching as I can. And then I think someone else should take my place and donate 3 months of coaching. And if someone can't decide if they love jiu-jitsu or not within 3 months, then I think it's not for them. You know what I mean? I think by that time,
So we got one of the guys that's training with us, his son does judo. And anyway, he approached us during one of the judo lessons. Do you think I'm too old to do jiu-jitsu? So no, come along, give it a try. Now he's there at least 3 times a week.
Yeah,
He's got all the good gear that he's bought.
There you go.
You know?
He's in.
He's looking
He's got
at
the
that,
bug.
and he's
He's
been
been bitten by the bug. Yeah.
Been bitten by the bug, mate.
Bitten by the bug.
By the bug.
Absolutely, man. I'm with you.
Dave, tell us what you think about no gi and don't hold back. How do you feel about gi?
I can feel this is a setup. I can feel a setup.
Yeah, because we've had this conversation the other night, and I'm just going to see if he sticks with the same.
How can you actually get graded in no gi? This is just me, just hypothetically. How do you get graded in no gi?
Yeah, exactly.
10th planet, take note.
Yeah. Oh, look, mate, Frank Barker's a friend of mine. He's a nice bloke, but I'm just asking you, Anton. No, look, the thing is, you've got to be able to do both. That's a given. But when you say, I'm a black belt in no gi, okay, you're a black belt in no gi. Put the gi on and let's have a roll as well. And then how are they going to do a lot of the stuff that we do in gi? So there's you want to have a fully rounded game, both gi and no gi.
Yeah.
So to specialise only in no gi, it's great if you say as good as Craig Jones or Gordon Ryan, and you're making, your name overseas and you're making your future, and you're supporting your family. That's fantastic, and I take my hat off to those guys. But if you're just Wally the worker that's coming in saying, no gi's, gi's crap, no gi's the best. Well, how do you know?
Yeah,
have you tried both? And the thing is, believe it or not, at my club, the majority of my guys are purists. They prefer the gi.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree. We have guys, right, who come into the gym and then you roll with them and they're good. They're really good. I'm not taking that away from them. And then they might be in a gi, right? Or they might be in no gi. And I'm like, okay, what belt are you? And they're like, I don't know because I only do no gi. And I'm like, but the first thing that enters my mind is I couldn't function like that because I really need to know where I stand. I want more belts. I want higher levels. I want accolades, like just so I know I'm progressing. I don't even know how these guys do that. Like, how do you go through that process never knowing where you stand? I don't understand that.
What I say to my guys is I want to train my guys up to a level where whether it be blue, purple, whatever, where they can go to any gym in the world and hold their own at that level. Yeah. They don't have to tap everybody out on the mat. They can get tapped. But as long as they're competitive at that level, I'm happy. And that means I've done my job as a coach.
Yeah.
And that means they've done their job as a student. It's where you get somebody like, you get these people to come in and they're saying, I've done six months MMA training. Okay. So what, you've been punched in the face for 6 months and you didn't like it. Now you want to come do jiu-jitsu. Is that what you're telling me? Do you know what I mean?
I do.
So they come on, they get on the mat, and then they try a couple of half-assed heel hooks and stuff like that, which you've obviously seen off YouTube or whatever, and it doesn't work. And then, so how do you quantify that being in relation to being training no-gi, you know what I mean? And that's the thing you've got. And like up here, we have every year, we have a rotation of Marines, and sometimes we're quite lucky to have some of the, what they call collegiate wrestlers, American collegiate wrestlers come and train with us. And, mate, their stand-up, absolutely superb, their takedowns. Mate, get them on their back, mate. They're like a fat spider on their back, mate. Their legs are up in the air and they've got nothing. They've got no idea what to do. Yeah. And that's true. But they're lovely guys, but that's what it's like.
Yeah. Fat spider.
And how is it in Darwin, Dave, training in the gi? Like, I've got to admit, I mean, I'm here in the dry season. I guess it's 31 degrees or whatever. It's pretty hot. You previously were in Melbourne. How did you find it, firstly, acclimatizing, and how is it training? Is it easier to train no gi or what do you think?
It depends how once you're acclimatized up here, see, the other night was funny. We're out here having a few drinks and Kim was having a lot of drinks and Karen goes, I'm cold, can you get me a jumper? And both Theo and Kim's necks nearly snapped. They turned around and looked at Karen.
25 degrees.
25 degrees and Karen wants to put a jumper on.
It's 1 degree in Melbourne. Yeah. What the hell?
Admittedly, you have COVID though, man. So based on that, it's probably a fever.
Well, actually, your old partner in crime, mate, Pat RoD, did me a favour.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I spoke to him a while ago about gis. I think he's head of Fuji now, Australia, isn't he?
Wow.
Something like that. Wow. Anyway, so I ended up ordering the separados or whatever they're called through Pat and Fuji. And now, so I think they're the number in the top 3 or the top 5 lightweight gis competition qualified in the world. Yeah. And they are absolutely ideal for up here. And so I sell those. No onus or no responsibility on any of the guys to buy them. You can wear what you want. I don't care. But I do sell geese and all that stuff with my brand on it if they want to buy them.
Yeah.
And in the end, they eventually come around. Like a couple of them go and buy all the fancy stuff, and then all of a sudden, they go, nah, it's too heavy. So I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
The other morning, I'd done all the washing, but once again, Karen had forgot to hang it out. But anyway, so I had to grab one of my old geese. She's sitting over there, give me the look. So I had to grab one of my old Moya geese. So I put the Moya geese on when I got to the club, and I'm like, geez, it felt like a bloody horse blanket, mate. It was that heavy. And Moya was one of my favourite geese, Even I was a corral guy for years and years and years.
Yeah.
It was Victor Costa corral, Devine, and all that sort of stuff. And, and then now I couldn't think I wouldn't wear anything other than a Fuji lightweight gi up here because it's just too hot. And the thing is, they wash easy, they wear well, and they dry really quickly.
Nice.
And they're not heavy, and they don't really retain the amount of sweat. Like some of the guys that come up here, they've still got their old, like hyperflies and stuff like that. Vulcan.
Yeah.
He's looking at Theo because that's Theo's favourite geek.
Vulcan.
We're not sponsored at all. No sponsorship, by the way.
Do you remember the Krugans? They're just like a pair of flour sacks sewn together. Yeah. But, no,
I don't think half our listeners don't know who Krugans is. Dave's been around a really long time. So, Now, we haven't even touched on any of your conversation, any of your experiences with Gordinio. Can you tell us very quickly? We've only got probably 5 minutes. But
this is funny. I took Karen down to Melbourne, right? And there's Gordinio's poster. Anyway, Gordinio, if you don't know, he likes to wear these little hats, right? Anyway, he's walked upstairs and he's gone to Karen. Oh, who are you here for? She goes, I'm here for Gordinio's seminar. He goes, that's me. And I've just lost it. She didn't even know who he was. He had on. He's incognito, but he's a lovely guy. Great, like two-time world champion or something like that. Mate, his jiu-jitsu is extraordinary.
Wow.
As good as his brother, mate.
I meant the examples of when you trained with him in Brazil, not embarrassing Karen about the time that you came in Melbourne, that you and Melbourne together.
I don't actually.
That's so funny. I just hit myself in the nuts.
Actually, the best one I probably trained with, the one that I found, I rolled with a number of people when I was there. I rolled with Carlinos Gracie Jr. And that was a funny experience because I've gone up there and I forgot my blue belt, right? And I'm just sitting there and he said, "Oh, would you like to roll?" I said, "Oh, sorry, mate, I forgot my belt." Anyway, he's muttered something or said something in Portuguese. Then his blue belt sprinted across the room, giving Carlos the belt, and Carlos is just throwing at me, so I put it on. So I'm rolling. Next minute, mounts me, cross collar choke, punches me. Yep, that's it. Then I went back and told Pete. Pete just laughed. He goes, "Yep, that's Carlinos." And then we're at Gavia Jiu-Jitsu with Leo Teixeira and Mauricio Gomez, which is Hodge's father. He was there for, I think it was World Masters and Seniors with a couple of his students. Lovely guy once again. And I can remember, and if you've heard about him, he's got the knee ride from hell, and it is from hell. So anyway, with clapped hands, he's grabbed me, half headbutted me, swept me, and just knee ride me. And he was like 90 plus kilos or something like that. I could feel, my ribs starting to fold. But, mate, once again, technique. Mate, those two guys, Leo Teixeira again, one of the founding members of Gracie Barra, his technique, just superb. And this is the thing, and even with Gordo's technique, and a lot of Gordo's, Romolo Cardoso, I think, is one of Gordo's black belts there. He was teaching, got the restaurant around the corner from Gordo's new gym. Mate, his technique. And the difference in the technique with these guys was chalk and cheese, and they were so smooth. And when you think, see, Leo Teixeira, his original teacher was Holtz Gracie. Richo Game got even his black belt off Holtz Gracie. So all these guys, and you're looking all now back and think you didn't really know when I first went over there who these guys really were. Carlos Gracie Jr., what can you say? It's just really nice people, but
killers on the map.
Oh, yeah. And the thing is, they did it all with a smile on their face.
Yeah.
Remember that, people. That's how you got to do. When you choke someone out, just do it with a smile.
Yeah.
All good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and look them in the eye as it goes down.
Absolutely.
We're nearly out of time, Dave. We've got about 2 minutes. Any
Yeah.
final words? Any parting thoughts?
No, so thank you very much for having me on.
Yeah.
You're always welcome to come up here, Anton.
Yeah.
Wet or dry season, mate. Got a bungalow there if you want to stay with us, mate. Come and roll with me. Come and see my guys, mate.
I love that, man. You know, I also have some final words on that too, man. And it's like, you are the epitome. Like we talked about couch surfing around the world with jiu-jitsu, etc. But you are that. That's why Kim's there. She's couch surfing with you. She's training with you. You're providing amazing hospitality, and you are the epitome of the jiu-jitsu community. This is what this is all about, man. I feel the love, and thank you so much for coming on the show and talking about these amazing stories. I'm sure you could talk for hours and hours, given the time. So you'll have to come back someday, brother.
No worries, mate.
Awesome.
Thanks
All
very
right.
much for having me, mate.
Thanks so
Thank
much.
you. All right.
Cheers.
I'm going back and I'm going to drink some more. All right.
Look out, world. Here comes Kim.
See ya.
Bye.